Every day, local government makes modern life possible. Water flows, roads are repaired, parks and playgrounds open and come to life. And behind each one of those services is a story of people who show up, care deeply, and lead with purpose, even when no one is watching. This is the HaltingWinter Podcast, and it's part of the HaltingWinter Project, a movement to restore pride, purpose, and participation in local government by sharing the stories that build belonging. I'm Seth Winterhalter, and every week I tell the stories that remind America where government really lives, locally, in our cities, our counties, and our communities. Before we hear today's conversation, I want to thank our founding sponsor, Tyler Technologies, a company that's been exclusively serving the public sector since 1998. From smarter budgeting to stronger resilience, Tyler Tech equips local governments with software and solutions that help leaders serve with clarity, efficiency, and impact. You can explore practical resources and hear the real success stories from communities across the country at tylertech.com/winter. That's tylertech.com/winter. Tyler Technologies, empowering the public sector to build stronger, more connected communities. Now, let's turn to today's conversation. My guest on the podcast today is Elvin Hardwick. He goes by EJ. He's the town manager of Somerset, Maryland, and one of the recently named top 10 town managers for 2025 by the Government Business Review. EJ, welcome to the podcast. I can't wait to dive into this conversation today.
Thank you. Great to be here. Happy to be on.
We're going to have fun. You are a young guy, but you are making waves. And I love that because this podcast is all about inspiring young people to strongly consider the profession of local government, which I think is one of the most missional, impactful places you can work. And it's so encompassing. There's so many skills and areas of talent to be able to find your way in local government, from engineers to HR to, just the gamut. I don't think there's a skill or a strength you have that I don't think we could find a place for you in local government to impact people's day-to-day lives. That's the beauty of it. You're doing real work. Not just, again, there's a need for policy, and we'll dive into that as you wive through, poli-sci and multiple degrees, but the hands-on everyday work of municipal leadership and just work is so powerful. So anyway, I look forward to diving into this because hopefully we'll inspire some young people, and hopefully we'll encourage some of the elders, some of the people who are currently in city management and leadership at the municipal level to think boldly. And I think that's what you're doing. You're taking some risks, and you're being creative and using kind of the dawn of the new age with AI and technology to how do we stay ahead? How do we continue to deliver amazing service and make our cities flourishing? So before we get to all that, though, let's get to know you. Let's unpack your story. Take us back to the beginning, oh so long ago, and tell us about where you were born and the path that's led you to where you're at today.
I'd be happy to. The beginning, I was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I was raised in nearby Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. My kind of passion for civil service began really early. My dad is a clinical pharmacist for the Department of Veterans Affairs, worked out of Tulsa, still works out of Tulsa. And then my mom, she was a volunteer for public education through the Oklahoma PTA, Parent Teacher Association. Then when I was a little older, she taught at the elementary and then high school levels as a special behavioral coach, and now goes to school districts across the state of Oklahoma as a behavioral education coach. So, and then my grandfather was a firefighter who actually was a first responder during the Oklahoma City bombing. And my grandmother was always helpful with that. So my sort of passion for civil service goes back a long way. I got involved really young, helping my mom with her volunteerism, going to conventions and meeting with other representatives for public education in Oklahoma. And then it was in high school where I first became really interested in local government. I attended Broken Arrow High School in Oklahoma. My graduating class was about 1,400. And there was a couple activities there that really got me inspired. The first was I was did this program with Broken Arrow, Oklahoma called the Youth City Council, YCC. It was this youth program that the city has and quite a few other cities and towns have across the United States, where young people have a chance to work with their city council, with local government employees, and learn about local government and potentially have an impact of their own. I did that in my junior and senior years of high school, and it was a great opportunity. I got to meet the city manager of Broken Arrow, a man named Michael Spurgeon, who is still the city manager of Broken Arrow. I think he just celebrated 10 years there, who had a big influence on me working with the, I also had a chance to work with the assistant city managers. It led me to two other opportunities as well. Is at the time the city was putting together a citizens committee as it had yet to implement a curbside recycling program, and I was asked to be on the committee as sort of a youth liaison to that committee. And then after I got off the ground, I was elected by the committee as vice chairman, which was a really fun opportunity to have. So young, and worked with that committee for a couple of years, and it ended up successful. Broken Arrow implemented a curbside recycling program that's still in place today. And then the other opportunity was in 2018, when I was 18 years old, I got to attend the National League of Cities Congressional City Conference in Washington, D.C., and got to meet with city managers and other local government officials from all over the country. Uh, and I got to hear from some incredible speakers. And I also got to visit Washington, D.C. So that all kind of came together in a really nice way.
I love this. Okay, I want to dive into the three aspects you just said, because I think this is going to help young people, hopefully, who listen to the podcast, see opportunities that they may not know. But that's one of the things I think local government struggles at times to communicate. We use kind of old channels, outdated, and so a lot of people do not know. Like, again, this program that you did in high school that was so hands-on experiential. Do you know how many city managers I interview who, when they grew up, when they even got to college, they had no idea what a city manager was? You might as well have said an alien on Pluto, right?
Yeah.
And so for you to have in high school, not only the awareness of what local government is, but the hands-on experience of what that. I want to dive into that first. What was that program? How many people are taking through? What did it really look like? So we can also give maybe some city managers who are trying to think about how do we engage our young people in our community. Maybe this would be an idea for them to chew on. What was the program like? What was great about it? Maybe what would you do if you were to implement one there in Somerset that would make it even better?
Great. Thank you. Yes. So the program was open to, when I was there, to juniors and seniors in high school. Obviously, they had to be residents of Broken Arrow. For those who don't know, which I'm assuming is most listeners, Broken Arrow is a city in Oklahoma that's about 115,000 people. It's the fourth biggest city in Oklahoma after Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and Norman. And so this program, I cannot remember the exact number off the top of my head. I want to say they tried to take around 10 people each year, so there was 10 juniors, 10 seniors. And it was something funny is, even though I was already kind of interested in local government, I have to give a shout out to the show Parks and Recreation. That was a show I watched when I was younger and really caught my eye. And I actually almost didn't do the program because the deadline was really close to when I even figured out about it. Only did it because my mom kind of prodded me. So I'll give her credit for that one. Yeah, so that basically we met monthly, and we actually met at different places. Most of the time it was at City Hall, but sometimes it was others. And among the seniors, 5 were elected, I believe, as council members, youth council members, and 2 others were elected as youth mayor and youth vice mayor. And then, so basically they would run the meetings with assistance, of course, from the city's point staff person. And each meeting, we'd have our own business. Each year, we would be working towards a project for the city, but then we'd also, of course, be learning. And so the really eye-opening part of that was we would hear from different city employees And we would also tour different city facilities that usually you would never, as a high schooler, know about or tour. Uh, we we met at the Broken Arrow has a joint firefighter police department headquarters that we got the tour. Got the tour a wastewater treatment plant. We got the treat. We got the tour um, the uh, not wastewater but drinking water plant as well, and it was some really that knowledge of what local government is doing, what it does for people every day, was really inspiring. I already knew from a young age I wanted to do something civil service oriented, but this is really where local government came into focus. And then at the end of the year, the the youth council members, youth mayor, youth vice mayor, would and the other seniors would be able to attend the NLC conference in DC, which they had to fundraise for. And then at the very end, they got to do a mock city council meeting, basically, to kind of get thrown into the real deal. And the seniors would be, of course, the elected officials, but the juniors would be the staff. And I was actually my junior year, I played the role of city manager, um, which was awesome. And my senior year, I was able to be a youth council member, did the DC trip, did mock council meeting, and it sort of all just kind of clicked into place there. I was like, this is what I want to do. I knew I didn't want to run for public office, though. I knew I wanted to make a career out of it, and so it sort of became a very um, obvious choice to look into city management. And it's funny you mentioned is my first big accomplishment at Somerset was actually forming its own youth town council.
Ugh,
Um, as I was hired at the town of Somerset in June of 2023, and the deputy town manager, its first ever, and one of my big first kind of pushes was to get its own youth town council, which is still up and running to this day.
I
Actually,
love it. Oh, it's so cool. Okay, so the second thing before we get, I want to get to the NLC and that DC trip. But you mentioned that you were put on able to serve as on a committee as kind of the student,
Mhm.
whatever ambassador of that. Talk about that again. These are ways that if we're creative, there are places for people to serve. And I think
Mhm.
that's where when we get in the busyness, and I don't know if there's a more busy, there's just so many things the city's doing. Like you said, you just mentioned you got fire, you got wastewater, you got real drinking water, you got trash, you got all these services, and people have no idea the complexity it takes and the stress of trying to manage people, your residents who complaining about this and this and this, and then you're trying to also, so you got all the present day, but you're also thinking about the future. Where are we taking? What infrastructure is failing? How do we do? So you got all these things going on. So sometimes it can be, it's understandable how we might not be seeing all the opportunities around us. But let's dive into that. What did that look like to serve on a committee, and how influential? What was that again in the step of just opening your eyes to actually participating, not just looking as a view, but actually being a part of something?
It was an incredibly amazing opportunity. I still think fondly back on it. I don't know um, how my name sort of came up besides just being at the youth council, but I was asked if I would consider serving on it. And of course, I said yes. Um, and it was a group of citizens, a lot of them who were really sort of already active in the community, which was a really cool meeting. And then there were two council liaisons on the committee, as well as some staff people. I want to give a special shout out to Councilor Johnny Parks, who was also very influential when I was on the youth council. He was somebody who really cared about getting the young people engaged in local government. And so he was the one that really pushed me on when I was serving on the committee and when I was just doing the youth council. Uh, Basically, Broken Arrow did not have a recycling program. If people wanted to recycle, they had to go to a private facility. And so Broken Arrow was wanting to implement a curbside recycling program. And it, like first couple lessons of local government that I really learned is how slow local government can be and how it's not always simply red tape. A lot of it is actual um, caution to make sure you're doing it right, to make sure you're getting everybody's feedback. Because I agree, there's a lot of red tape in government. There's a lot of bureaucratic mess that can happen at all levels of government. But when you really get in there, you can see that sometimes these things take time, not because of some bottleneck, but just because a lot of people have their own opinions. And you don't, when you're using public money, when you're entrusted with public trust, you want to do it right. And so the committee, it took a couple of years. We met with a lot of experts. We met with other communities who have implemented similar programs. We got to tour facilities in Tulsa, Oklahoma, for example, and there was many discussions among us. We finally produced a report that was presented to the city council, and then it was sort of working with the city council to get a program approved. And everybody has their own opinions, and I also learned that because there was people who were against the proposal, of course, and some of them were very passionately against it. And so, I remember sitting in the council chambers, not really as a committee person, but more of just a citizen who was there. I was almost incognito, you could say, and I was sitting next to somebody who the whole time was sort of against the proposal, and I was just sort of kind of like, oh, this is. I think it's easy when you're in it to get so caught up in uh, not an echo chamber necessarily, but you can forget that some people are against it from the get go. Is when you're in the committee, you're like, okay, we all agree recycling is needed. It's just how we get there. And then it's only when you're sort of not with the committee, you're like, oh, some people don't even think we should even get there. And then it sort of led to a restructuring of how trash and recycling was done in Broken Arrow. And that those changes, I'm sure there's probably been some small changes here and there throughout the years since the committee, but by and large, the changes are still in place as far as I'm aware of. I don't live there, of course, but my parents and sisters still do.
What an opportunity to really not only be a part, but to see, like you said, the kind of the speed, the complexity, the reality of how public sector, especially a municipality, is far different than a private sector company that runs at the speed of cash, that runs at the pleasure of its stockholders, right? A community is radically different. So many different variables of why people want things and why they don't. And like you said, that there is the realities of bureaucracy and policy and whatnot that can slow things down that maybe aren't as helpful. But there's also a reality of making sure that, right, again, you're a steward of not only tax dollars, but of the community, of its culture, of its well-being, of its collective, right, kind of like a vibe, to make sure that it's moving as much as possible in the same direction. And so it is a different pace, a different reality there. And what a cool opportunity to be a part of. I love that. And so then you get the opportunity to go to the National League of Cities, right? Their big
Yes.
summit in DC. Talk about that. Talk about the now. And my big question, because you made a statement. You said, I saw that I wanted to make it a perfect. That was kind of all this is instrumental for you to go. This is my thing. I want to serve, but I want to do it professionally. So that kind of led you to city management versus elected.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, a lot of people do elected. They see it as a career, and it both of them. It is interesting, and we won't necessarily have to get into this, but it is interesting that both of them actually have a similar reality. Because if you're elected, sure, yeah, if you don't get elected, then what do, right? And with city management, though, there's a similar thing, and it's not like you just get a job and you get to stay there forever. You can get fired at a moment's notice, and it's not like there's another city manager job around the corner. You know, there's only one in the city, so you're most likely going to have to move out of that city, out of that even region at times. So talk about the experience of going to that national conference, and then really what's going on in the mind of EJ as you're thinking about your future at this time, and then what leads you to the next step as you leave Broken Arrow High School.
Yeah. So senior year, this was either the week before, or the week after spring break. Something that was nice is sort of a local government special district collaboration. Is that the Broken Arrow High School was kind enough to not count those as unexcused absences, since it was not actually on spring break. And so, yes, it was the seniors. I believe, if I remember correctly, there was about 5 of us, including me, I want to say, that went on the trip. And plus the delegation of just actual city employees. So uh, about 4 of the council came, a couple employees, including uh, our handler. I almost want to call her, who was the kind of staff person overseeing the council. And we had to fundraise for it. The city paid for part of our expenses, but then, of course, as sort of a sign of that we were actually committed, we had to do some fundraising for it. And then, yes, we went to DC. We got to stay. We didn't actually stay at the conference hotel the year I went, just because of it running out of space. But we stayed in a hotel in DuPont Circle. It was my first time in the District of Columbia, and it was also sort of the first sort of big continent, like far away trip for my parents and sisters, and so it was just like a really fun opportunity. And the conference itself was an incredible experience. They had um, so many people there from all across the country, and like you kind of mentioned, it was a wide breadth of people. There was elected officials, there was staff people, there were consultants and industry people, and they were all kind of intermingling. And so just getting to talk to some of them, or just getting to hear them talk, was incredible. Talking about the things they're doing in their communities, um, talking about the things that they're struggling with, talking about the things they're succeeding. Uh, Something that really struck out to me too is that if you, for the most part, unless if it was like a really big city, you could not tell who in the room was a Democrat or a Republican. They were all community members, which was a very important thing for me to note, because it didn't matter what your national or even state affiliation was. You were focused on the people in your community and your neighbors. Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, for example, didn't even have partisan elections. Our city council didn't run on any party. And I've always really attached myself to that idea at the local level of not being partisan. Uh, and that was really seen here. Um, and then the youth council sort of had its own kind of sessions, which were just really nice, getting to interact with youth council members from all over the country, California, Massachusetts, also Oklahoma. And then we also got to attend some other sessions. I remember not knowing which session to slip into. So I just slipped into this one session. I didn't really even have time to look at what it was. And it was a session on sort of public relations, media training, which is not something I needed at the time, of course. But I just was like so interested in the stories that were being told and everything. And then of course there was plenary sessions, and there was some guest speakers. I can't quite remember who exactly, but the U.S. senators. I do remember the Secretary of Labor spoke. The Department of Labor at this particular conference had like a large contingent because he was speaking, and so it was a very special experience for me. And in terms of like elected versus staff, I think a lot of it, sort of for me, was on making it a career and not wanting to do elected, was just sort of wanting to be on the ground, kind of doing the work. Not saying elected officials don't work hard; they absolutely do. But I was like, I want to be sort of in the office, in the streets, uh, working every day for people in the community.
We're living through one of the biggest shifts local government has ever seen. Not political, not cultural, it's digital. AI, automation, cybersecurity, cloud migration, none of this used to be part of your job description. But now it's the choppy water every city and county is swimming in. And for many leaders, it feels less like innovation and more like what's going to break next, and will we survive it? Here's the truth most people won't say out loud. A lot of governments aren't afraid of the cloud. They're afraid of getting it wrong because the stakes are real. You're trying to protect data, modernize ancient systems, improve service, and keep your residents happy, all while staying under budget and out of the fire. That's why I appreciate the team at Tyler Technologies. They don't talk about the cloud like it's magic pixie dust. They break it down. What to migrate, when to migrate, how to get long-term value without blowing your budget or burning out your people. They've helped more local governments make this transition than anyone I know, and they've put all their best insights into a new ebook about cloud adoption and strategy. If you're trying to lead your organization into the future instead of getting dragged there, you got to check this out. Their newest guide is called Modern Governments Live in the Cloud, and you can download it for free at tylertech.com/winter. That's tylertech.com/winter, WINTER. tylertech.com/winter. Go check it out. Download the free guide. Now, back to the conversation. What a cool opportunity. And I love what you said. I just want to highlight again, this is what probably the biggest thing that attracts me to local government and that inspires me to do now what we're doing with not only the podcast, but the HaltingWinter Project is that reality of apoliticalness of local gov. And I think it's one of the issues is just the divisive reality that's flowing down from the national scene down to the local, because you guys have to deal with that. You get people who I'm sure come to your city council meetings and they only watch Fox or CNN or whatever. And so they think, well, this is what's happening at the national level. So this is what I got to be Doge or I got to do something, and it's like, listen, your water does not flow on red or blue pipes. Your trash isn't picked up by red or blue, dump trucks. Your fire doesn't go, oh, you're on the wrong party. Sorry, we're going to be late. And I think it not only is that a reality, I think that's how we change the political climate is we remember that local is actually where it's at. And if we embody a healthier disposition, if we get people actually involved in local government, at least voting, at least caring what's going on at the local level, I think it helps people remember that we're a community and we are supposed to look a little different. And where it's going, you're going to have different opinions. And that's good. That brings out the best ideas. We don't all want to think alike. That's dangerous. And so anyway, I just love that you pointed that out. And I think that's such a good reminder of what separates local government from state and national. And like you say, hopefully will bring us together to create a healthier environment, so maybe we can influence the government institutions above us to some healthier discourse and even just disposition. Okay, so here you are. You have all these really cool experiences, which I love. I love people not just going to a gov class, but actually getting your hands dirty in these experiences. I want to encourage, if you're a local government leader right now, think about this. How can you involve young people, high school, even college, whatever that is, internships, etc.? Because that's how we get people excited about it. We show them, like you say, who gets to tour a water treatment plant? Who even understands water treatment, right? I just turn on the faucet and I hope it runs and hope it tastes good, right? And yet it's city, it's municipality that's making all these things happen. So you from high school, you take the plunge. You go to Tulsa Community College and start an AA and poli sci. Tell us about that. What was that experience like? Then you leave the great state of Oklahoma to Missouri. Rivalry, and you're at Missouri State University, which is in Springfield. That's where I did my undergrad. So, in fact, I started my first master's degree at Missouri State University. So, I'd love to tell us about the college experience and how that is shaping and formulating and what's happening in the mind of EJ during this experience.
Yeah. So I graduated high school in 2018 and I knew where I wanted to go in the general broad direction of local government management. And I am probably one of the biggest community college advocates out there, especially like even if you know what you want to do, but especially if you don't know what you want to do. It was a really great experience and it was affordable. I went to Tulsa Community College, like you mentioned, for 2 years. I got my associate's degree in political science. I got to interact with a lot of great people and I got to have some really special experiences that I don't know if I would have gotten at a 4-year institution. just one that comes to mind, not exactly city management related, is I had a classmate that was a Vietnam veteran who had served in Vietnam, had been drafted into Vietnam. And I was in an international relations class with him. And so he just brought these experiences that it was really incredible. Um, and so I went through community college with the kind of goal of getting my associates and then going on to a 4-year institution. And the 4-year institution, the reason I ended up going to Missouri State University is because not only did they have a Master of Public Administration, which I sort of knew was the ultimate goal. It was like start with the AA, get the bachelor's, get the master's in public admin. Is it had an accelerated master's program where you could start taking grad classes as an undergrad and finish early. So it's kind of a 5-year degree program, basically. And um, Missouri State University, its public admin department head, not department, but program head at the time was a wonderful, wonderful man who I remember when I was trying, the thing that scared me about transferring from community to trying to get into the accelerated program is making sure I met all the requirements. And one of the requirements from Missouri State was that you had to be a junior, which I was going in as a junior, but then you also had to be there at the school for at least a year. And so it was sort of like this murky sort of ground of if I qualified. So I emailed him and he reached out and was like, it won't be a problem. We'll work with you. And so I applied. I got in. I attended Missouri State University for 3 years. And I remember my first semester, I sort of was emailing him back and forth. And I was like, okay, so just to make sure I have all my ducks in a row, when do I actually apply for the program? He goes, do it now. And I did it and I got in. And I was able to start both programs basically back to back. And then a key experience for me at university was I participated in my school's Model United Nations, which isn't exactly local government, but I it still had a very impactful. Uh, it had a great impact on how I treat local government because the you can kind of take lessons you learn from sort of other levels of government, in this case international, and bring it down to local. And specifically just engaging with people who obviously it's model, it's not really United Nations, but engaging with people who have very different opinions from you, who have very different resources from you. And then so in 2022, I got my bachelor's of political science. And then in 2023, I got my master of public administration. My final semester of Missouri State University, I did an internship with the local government. I interned for the village of Indian Point in Missouri. It's in Stone County near Branson, Silver Dollar City. And the new village manager was actually finishing up the program I was in as well. And so it was sort of a really fun opportunity to work directly with him, sort of as a kind of his right-hand man, I guess you could say. And it was a great internship, especially because I just got to learn a lot hands-on. It was not an internship, not trying to bash the other types of internships, but it was not one of those kind of get the coffee internships. This was one of those like, we're looking at implementing sewer hookup charges, EJ. I need you to look into this. And so I just really appreciated that experience tremendously.
I love it. It reminds me, we had Steve Dalton on. He's the city administrator in West Branson and was just talking about the explosion. He was a police officer in Branson when it was like, the dirt road kind of thing, became police chief, then moved over to West Branson, and they're annexing Silver Dollar City, and just the amazing kind of growth out in that area. And so again, what I love about what you just said is it wasn't just getting the coffee internship. It was real, like throwing you in experience, getting able to see how the what do they say, how the food's made right in the back kitchen. Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of these opportunities. So you wrap up again. This is the cool thing. You're looking intentionality about an accelerated MPA program from Tulsa Community to Missouri State University, 5 years. Now you've got the MPA, and you end up. How it looks like? Do you go right from Missouri State University to the town of Somerset, serving as the deputy town manager. Tell us about that process. What was that like?
Yes, I went directly from my graduation to coming to Somerset, and so kind of final year, especially the final semester, I applied for a bunch of jobs. Um, I had spent all my life in Oklahoma, and obviously, and it was a great place to grow up, but I wanted a sort of different experience, and I had fallen in love with DC um, after that trip in 2018. So I wanted to be on the East Coast, preferably in the DC area. So I was especially applying for any job I could find. And so one of the jobs I found was the deputy town manager position of Somerset, Maryland. Applied and went through 3 interviews. And it's actually funny is I graduated on a Friday. That next Monday, I got the call from the town manager at the time, Matt Challenger, offering me the job. And so that was at the very end of May 2023. And then 2 weeks later, June 2023, I moved up here, started as the deputy town manager. And um, it was it was a new position, so I was being mentored by Matt Challenger, and I was sort of trying to figure things out with him on what exactly the position would be like and what would happen. And I was learning the town, um, and so worked with him for about 8 or 9 months, and then he got another exciting opportunity, and so announced he was leaving, and so they put out the job and talked to Matt about it. I decided to apply for it myself, and uh, was lucky enough to receive it. And I started as town manager of Somerset in April of 2024.
Oh, this is so cool. Okay, we gotta unpack. It's so good. Okay, so you take this position. I love this. 2 weeks later, you're in DC, back in again. Tell us a little bit about Somerset. Here's what I know: less than a mile from the District of Columbia. I think it's like 7 miles to the White House front door, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you are right there. I think the population is around 1,200. Is that right?
That's correct.
And so again, these are these unique city community towns that like are again as the epicenter of Washington D.C. spreads out. So I'm sure you have a ton of people that work probably in D.C. Tell us about it. Who lives in Somerset? What does it look like? What when you get there, your eyes are now it's one thing to be Broken Arrow, large city, 100,000 people. Now, even though the city appears small. So one of the things I love about city management is you go, 1,200 people. It's like this little tiny, it's like, dude, you have no concept. Like, and I'm sure you've got towns. In fact, I can't remember the two that are there's two well-known towns right next to you, I think.
Yeah.
And so tell us about it. When you get there, what is it like? Again, new position, but also new place. Tell us about Somerset.
Yes, Somerset's a really special place, and I knew nothing about until I started. But yeah, it was incorporated in 1906. So this year is actually its 120th anniversary. We're actually still planning it, but this April we're going to be doing our first annual Charter Day to celebrate the incorporation of the town. And so, yeah, it's hard to believe, especially knowing where it is so close to the DC. But 120 years ago, this was all farmland. For Department of Agricultural Scientists who were busy doing really great science at the USDA decided, how about we found a town? Two of the founders are known for other things. One of the founders is Dr. Wiley, who is considered the father of the Food and Drug Administration. He championed the bill that created its passage and was its first director. And then the other one was Dr. Salmon, who is most known for being the namesake for the Salmonella bacteria. And little known fact for most people is they founded the town. So it was started by them as a unincorporated acres of land. And then they sort of realized early on that trying to build houses on unincorporated land was not easy. Nowadays, Montgomery County itself is a very big county. It has its own services. It's very impressive. That was not true 120 years ago. So they're having all these issues. So they filed for incorporation, and the town started growing, and then really boomed following the Second World War. And so it's a very small town. It's about 0.28 square miles. It is like you said, it's less than a mile from the DC border. We're bordered by the village of Friendship Heights, by Chevy Chase Village, by the village of Drummond, and then the neighborhood of Kenwood. And we have about 450 homes. Like you mentioned, we have around 1,200 people. Something very special about this community in that population is that currently we actually have a higher than average population of 60 plus. So there's a lot of people that have chosen to age in place here. But we also have a higher than average population of 18 and under. And so we actually have a lot of families here too, which creates a very diverse community. Somerset uh, Town Hall, where I am right now, the town hall was, funnily enough, built as just a purely residential home in 1902, turned uh, bought by the uh, town in the 1960s, and then became a schoolhouse for autistic children until it was converted into the town hall in 1982. And so it itself is a very old building. We have a historic district. Two of our homes, the Wiley home and the Solomon home, are on the National Registry of Historic Places. We have some great recreational facilities. We have three parks. We have Capella Park, which is your kind of traditional like uh, maintained park. We have Benton Park, which is a sort of nature trail park, and then we have Founders Park, which is quite small, but it was created in 2006 for the town centennial. And then we have tennis courts, and then probably the town's most famous feature is the Town of Somerset pool. It's a municipally operated pool in our town, and it is, if I say so myself, a thing of beauty. So, and then it's ran by Montgomery County Public Schools, but also in basically close to the center of town is Somerset Elementary School as well, public elementary school.
Well, a lot going on for, again, what you think, and you go, oh, it's just this tiny little place. No, we got life, we got things happening, and this is the thing, is it takes leadership, and it takes your city to make sure that community life is happening. I love that. I always say a unique thing about municipalities is you operate the infrastructure that most of us just take for granted, the things that, again, give us our everyday services, but it's that infrastructure that's built upon really a life of community, things like the parks, things like the pool that bring people together, and they give a sense of a place. And so I love that you mentioned those things. So you're the deputy town manager, June 2023. All of a sudden, the town manager gets this opportunity. They're going through a thing. You decide to put your name in a hat. I love that. Just like the bold, like, hey, I'm here, man. I think I could do it. Let's do it. And the council, I would assume, says, hey, let's do it. They put you in April of 2024. Here we are, a year and a half later. What has it been like? It's one thing to be the deputy town manager. There's leadership, there's responsibility. But when you're the town manager, it's on your shoulders. What has it been like to be in the big seat now for a year and a half at such a young age?
It has been the experience of a lifetime, honestly. It was a very quick transition period from kind of figuring out I was going to be, or when I was being offered the position of town manager, to actually becoming town manager. And so a lot of it was, I had watched Matt for this time. I had, taken the courses, but I think with a job like this, so much of it is just learning on the job as things happen and just kind of rolling with it. And so a lot of what I've learned, I feel like, has just been from doing. I think even now, I mean, a year and a half later, I'm still learning daily, still trying to figure out how to do things the best, constantly trying to improve. It's and it's been in seeing sort of all in working with all the townspeople, working with the residents. Sometimes not always at their happiest, and so kind of interacting with them on a daily basis, as it was a learning experience. Liaising between the council members and the mayor, and kind of um, between all of them was a very interesting, for like doing that for the first time was very interesting, because you're trying to um, do what's best for the town, and they're trying to do what's best for the town, and you're just trying to sort of navigate that. Um, it was, and still is, uh, a very dynamic, very at times challenging position, and it's something that I really enjoy doing.
Isn't it wild? So what started this whole my dive into local government 2 years ago was I did a podcast series called The Municipal Tightrope. And I interviewed over 50 city managers from across the nation, and I asked them about the role, I asked them about the challenges, about the opportunities, and one of the unique things that just came up in that was this idea of, again, I call it the three-headed snake. Right here, you are serving in, and it's one thing to be, again, the deputy town manager, but you don't realize probably the coverage that
Yeah.
town manager puts over you. And like you say, the three-headed snake is, you've got electeds, you have staff, and then you have community.
Mhm.
And each one of those heads is multiple heads, because it's not like all your council think the same.
Yeah.
And in fact, they're often trying to be devil's advocates and trying to, right, be different points of the different people in the city. And so they're often like, it's almost the realities that they'll push back against one another to have conflict, to make sure the best
Mhm.
ideas come forward. And so
Yeah.
to try to be the one who is managing that, and again, communicating and making sure things are understood and clear, it is, herding cats sounds like an easy job compared to what, and that's just the electeds, right? Then you have city staff, and the more complex your staff, the more department heads. It's not like they all think alike, and they're all fighting for dollars, and trying to get their things going. And then you have community members. It's just such a unique job, and it doesn't. That's why I love this podcast. It doesn't get the appreciation. People don't even know what a city manager is, and so how do we shine the spotlight and say, man, what a unique role? And like you say, I love what you just said there in your transparency and honesty. You love it, and yet it has its days, doesn't it? It has its
Mhm.
complexity, it has its challenges, and yet that's what makes it so, I think, life-giving, is the work that you do is so vital to the flourishing of everyday citizens and residents and people who live, work, and play in our
Mhm.
spaces. And so tell us about what you've done now over these last 2 years as both the deputy and the town manager now. Again, you were recognized as one of the top 10 town managers for 2025. It's like your first year in the job. So this is awesome. What are you up to that's getting recognition? I know that the Maryland Municipal League awarded you in fall 2024 at their conference a recognition and an award. So tell us what you're up to. How are you thinking creatively? And how are you? What are you doing to move the ball forward and make Somerset continue to be awesome?
Yeah. So I think what helps right off the bat is uh, me being young and having ideas, and wanting to uh, explore how to make Somerset better, but also having a mayor and council that has supports that, who also want to make Somerset better, who are not, um, who are wanting to do cool things, you could say, and wanting to improve the lives of our residents even more. And then having a helpful staff. I have my own deputy manager now, have a town clerk, who are extremely helpful. Um, and then we have these town committees that have are made up of residents, sort of like I was on the recycling committee, who meet and discuss certain issues and bring them up for the council, and they've led to things. But yeah, there's quite a few things I'm proud of. I can say, I already mentioned it, but the one of the first things I did as deputy town manager was I proposed the development of a youth town council, and that was passed, and it's still going strong. Um, our youth town council is about 9 kids in high school, and they are really they have made it their goal to uh, introduce young people to local government, to build community. And so they have hosted their own events. The two that I love are, they've now hosted two teen pool nights at our pool to kind of get the teens in the community all together. And then they hosted the youth entrepreneurial market. It was this past spring. We had, or they, I should say, it was all then, had kids come to town hall. We set it up sort of like a market, and then they sold their homemade goods. And so it was a way for kids to kind of make a little money, but also kind of learn some of these skills, to interact with their community. And that actually, is was an incredible, is one of my favorite events the town has done. Um, and then, yes, so in the fall of 2024, the town of Somerset received the Maryland Municipal League's Municipal Achievement Award for Excellence in E-Governance. We did so by partnering with a company called Polymorphic, and we built out a, first it was a search bar, now it's a chat bot, um, that uh, makes navigating our website a lot easier, that pulls from our website so that residents can ask it questions and get answers. And we found that to be a really great tool. And it's when I was deputy, we launched a new website that I helped a lot with, that I'm also very proud of. And this was like the next stage of that website, is having this chatbot that residents can use. It understands multiple languages. It it doesn't pull from random places on the internet. It only pulls from our town website and any documents we wanted to pull from. And so, and it provides a nice way to search out things, since I like to think we have a pretty robust municipal website, which is great, but also means that we have a lot on there. And at times it could be, if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, it could be challenging to find if it's not, if it's a bit more obscure. So that chatbot has really been helpful. And then, we mentioned community. The town does a lot of community events, and those are all really special. We do a big Independence Day celebration. Every year we do a non-engineerians ice cream social, celebrate our residents that are 98 plus. We have done Earth Day celebrations, Arbor Day celebrations. The town is a big Halloween town. And so we do a house decorating contest. We do a little kids parade. We close off a street for trick or treating that sees kids come from not just Somerset, but from all over the area. And we do all types of events like this. And in the fall of 2025, we got another Maryland Municipal Achievement Award, this time for excellence in community engagement. For sort of all these events, building community, but specific mention went out to the youth entrepreneurial market. The town also is doing our best to be as sustainable as we can. Something that's really special is that even though we're so close to the capital, we have a lot of greenery. We have these natural areas, and we want to keep them preserved and safe. So we have solar panels on our town hall. We have solar panels on our roof. Our public works uses an electric truck. We have stormwater management is an issue in town. So we have a comprehensive stormwater code for new construction, so that we can alleviate that as time goes on. We've built our own rain gardens. Um, when I first became town manager, we were about most of the way through a big renovation of our town pool. And so that was sort of the first project, as I got to see the overstages of that, and incredibly happy. And I'd like to think the rest of the town was too, on how that turned out. I got to renovate the tennis courts, which was a very fun project to do as well. Um, I got to implement or update our current, we have a compost curbside pickup. So we have trash recycling, but then we also have compost. And when I first came, it was an opt-in thing, but then we transitioned it to an opt-out, so that all towns or all houses got a bin and were enrolled, and got to do a lot of awareness for that, and really encourage composting in town. Um, and now and then getting to work on capital projects, like we have a bridge that leads to our pool over a creek, and in the process of restoring that right now. We're working on some improvement projects to update sidewalk areas to be more ADA accessible, and that has been a really gratifying project. So there's just for a town so small, there's so much happening, and it's great to be a part of it all.
I love it. And again, it's these little things like you say, composting, a sidewalk, a bridge that most people will take for granted. It'll be awesome. And they'll just continue to use it and not really notice the work that went in. But you see it and you know that it's better. It's serving the people. And the cool thing is, then you see, because you did those infrastructure things, that people are able to then partake of community together. And that's, again, I just highlight this. It's the power of local government is community. It is not only the community that you serve, but the community you create. And so, love it. How cool. I love that you highlighted a polymorphic. I'm trying to remember the CEO's name. Parth, is that right?
Yeah.
Parth and I connected a while ago. I love him. He has an amazing story. I got to get him on the podcast. But I love what they do. And these companies, right, that are using AI, obviously our sponsor, Tyler Tech, just how do we help, like you say, citizens, residents be more engaged? How do we get like you say, that's kind of the default is, we'll always be a little slow in public sector. We won't have the new gadgets and everything. And it's like, well, why not? Let's actually help our residents able to engage better. Like you say, with things like as simple as a search function. And so I love it. It's so cool. And so, here's my question for you, because again, you're so new to this and yet you're doing so much. One of the things I highlight is, and one of the things I talk about the most is work-life balance. And my big keynote is balance is BS. There's no such thing as work-life balance. There's just prioritization. There's just intention in the way you live and what you give yourself to. And one of the things I talk about, especially to local government leaders, because the work is so missional, and it's so, I think the best leaders are very passionate about what they're doing. And so it's like, you love work, you love doing it. And so it can be hard, and the role doesn't really shut off. It's not like your city sleeps. It's not like you have a lot of late night meetings, a lot of weekend events going on. And so that role, I was a pastor for a while, and pastor, my life never shut off. It's like, the phone's always ringing, events are always happening. Sunday, a weekend where people are resting, is your biggest work day. And so I think there's a little similarity in that role, in that life. How have you found just to take care of yourself? How, in a role that it's got a lot of pressure, a lot of a lot of fun, but a lot of probably a little bit of chaos, a little bit you get the awesome community events, but you also get the people moaning about the little, my sidewalk's not ready yet, what's going on over here. How have you in this time made sure to take care of EJ? So you're thriving well, and so that you're able to. Have you struggled with that yet? Have you felt a little bit of that pressure yet in the role as town manager now?
Absolutely. I think kind of working. I think, and that's one of the things that I've been working on, both as a professional, but also just as, like you said, just EJ, is finding how to, it's. And I completely agree when you say passion. I have so much passion for local government, for this job, and and that helps me so much. But it's also not the only thing I'm passionate about, of course. And so, making sure I'm finding time to do other things. Like you said, it doesn't quite shut off. There's things that happen at night. There's events. There's meetings. Occasionally, we'll have emergencies. And so, I think for me, the biggest thing has been, community is something nice. Is I don't live in Somerset personally. I primarily because I couldn't afford to live in Somerset. I live in DC itself, and I've developed quite a community there of friends who I get to spend a lot of time with, who I get to do really exciting things with. I make sure I find time to do things like read things that aren't public admin based, to write. I like to creatively write that aren't memos to the council. I think at times it can be difficult, especially during big, busy times like budget season and everything. But I think, we're just coming off the holidays when this is being recorded. And so I was in Oklahoma for 2 weeks with my family, and I worked a little bit, but not too much. And I realized over the holidays just how much, me taking time for me and making sure I'm having balance in my life is improves how I am at work. It makes me much more excited. It makes me much more excited when I am in the office. It uh, makes me keeps me energized, and so I think it can be a struggle at times, but it's a really important struggle to have to keep kind of grounded, to keep energized, and it's like as much as I love my job, it's only one aspect of my life. There's, other parts of that too. So I think that's um, it's a really important piece to talk about in local government, I think.
Absolutely. And I love that transparency. And I love what you said there about, finding other, not only, I always say the big keynote is about the areas and aspects of life. You have a personal, you have relational. I love that you mentioned you got friends and you have a community that kind of pulls you away from that work. I love that. But also, that writing, a creative outlet, right? That's not, you're not writing policies and new, whatever it is, work stuff, a creative outlet. Do you know Gabe Araume, I think is his last name. He's a city manager in Texas. He's a published author.
I don't quite.
Oh, I got to connect you to. His podcast is amazing, but and I love that, right? This creative outlet to just, and you can tell it's helped him be a healthier person and lead. I think that's the thing is when you have a full spectrum life, you lead better in the area of focus because you stay passionate, you stay hungry and curious instead of kind of dominating yourself. It's like I love lasagna, but if I just eat lasagna every meal, I'm gonna all of a sudden tire of it, and I'm not gonna be as fresh. So, I love it. So good. EJ, what else? I want to be mindful of your time. Anything else to share with the audience? Anything you're learning? Anything you're excited about when it comes to the 2026 ahead for Somerset?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great year for Somerset. I think we have a lot of things going on. And I think, kind of a lot of what I talked about, with this, it's like a really special community. We're working on just deepening those community ties through and events. And then I think sort of my aspiration for 2026 is one of my favorite, I can't remember the author at the top of my head, unfortunately, but one of my favorite papers from school was talking about street level bureaucrats. Is local government employees are the people on the street interacting with the community every day. And I definitely want to emphasize that in 2026, making sure that people feel heard, people feel connected to what's happening, people are engaged, not only just to the local government as an entity, but also just to their community. I think this year's America 250. It's for Montgomery County. It's Montgomery County 250. It's Somerset 120. So I think that's kind of a great time to focus on what ties Somerset together, what makes it a great community, and at the end of the day, that's the people that call it home.
I love it. It's so good as a history lover. It's just so cool to be a part of a place that has a rich heritage and a history and a story, right? I just think humans, the thing that separates us from every other thing is the ability to tell stories. We're a story people. So to not only tell stories and look back into history, but to be writing the new story. Where are we going? What are people going to write about Somerset 120 years from now? And what did we do to just make human life flourish, to continue to chart the way forward? I love it. EJ, thanks you for sharing your story and the insights and what you're doing. I love that you're staying fresh and hungry, looking for ways to stay inventive, to serve the people better, and to create the opportunities to, again, not only deliver the everyday services that local government does, but to create the community environments where people can be together and have memories to make experiences. I think that's what life is. And so thanks for leading the charge well. And again, sharing your life, your leadership journey, and your insights.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. This has been, it's an incredible talking with you, an incredible experience. So yeah, thank you again.
The stories we share here on the Halting Winter Podcast are part of something bigger, a movement to remind us where government truly lives. No, not in Washington, D.C., but right here at home, where we live, where we work, and where we play. Because it's in our cities, our counties, and our communities that the real work of democracy happens. And when local government thrives, people thrive. If this conversation inspired you, take a small step that makes a big difference. Subscribe to the podcast, share the episode, and follow along on social media. Every click helps amplify the stories that build pride, purpose, and belonging in local government. To learn more about the HaltingWinter Project and how you can be part of the work that builds belonging, visit HaltingWinter.com. I'm Seth Winterhalter, and until next time, this has been the HaltingWinter Podcast.